Well, I'm disappointed in the health care reform bill. I have wanted to vote for health care reform. I think we have to do something about the increasing costs that are going up and bankrupting businesses and families every day. We have to do something about the increasing numbers of millions of Americans who have no health insurance, because when they walk into the emergency room and they don't have any way to pay, those costs are then spread out to everybody else in our country. But I voted no on the final health care reform bill because I just believed at a time of a $1.3 trillion annual deficit, that extra $940 billion in spending in that bill over the next decade was just too much. That the bill was too expensive and too expansive. And I think it would have been smarter to try to cut more than 1,000 pages out of that bill, make it much simpler. Don't try to accomplish everything all at once. I think we could have built a bill around 5 or 6 key principles, such as insurance reform to help people get health insurance at a reasonable price if they have pre-existing conditions. And we could have built a bipartisan coalition for a bill, one that would have been much less expensive, could have garnered the support of 75% of Americans rather than to push this very expensive bill, complicated bill through that has created so much confusion and now has the country evenly divided pro and con. I do think my no vote reflected the voice and the values of the people of my district. I spent a year listening to folks from one end of our district to another, and the overwhelming viewpoint that I heard from our constituents was that they opposed the bill and they felt it was just trying to do too much at one time.
Okay, your vote places you, I guess, in the category of what people are calling a blue dog Democrat.
Right.
Can you discuss what you view that to be, as I guess it applies to you?
Well, I have always tried to be an independent-minded Democrat, and fiscal responsibility is an issue that I have taken seriously in all the time I've been in public service. I have voted against some Republican tax cuts during a time of war that I felt we couldn't afford and that would lead to deficits, and unfortunately my predictions turned out to be true. At the same time, I voted against Democrats in Congress when I felt they were trying too much spending that would also add to the deficit. So the way I look at it, I'm elected and take an oath of office to represent all the people of our district, not just the people of one party. So I've always tried to approach issues independently, and I think in the long run that's what people in this district want. They're tired of the hardcore partisanship on both sides of the aisle. I think people desperately want Congress, and I certainly agree with them on this. They want Congress to find some common ground, try to not just be out interested in soundbite attacks on the other party, find a way to work together for the good of the country.
Well, saying that, I'd like to follow up to something you said earlier, that there had been a pared-down health care bill surrounding 5 or 6 core principles. Do you really think that given the partisanship and the strong partisanship going on, that there would have been bipartisan support for that?
I think there could have been. We'll never know now, but I think there could have been, because you could have built it around principles that 75% of Americans supported, and it would have been hard for Democrats, perhaps some of the most liberal Democrats and maybe a handful of partisan Republicans that didn't want to cooperate. You might have had them voting against a bill like that, but if 75% of the American people had understood a simpler, less expensive, less complicated bill, I think you would have seen Congress reflect the will of the public, and there would have been bipartisan support. And on big issues like protecting the solvency of Social Security in 1983, it really takes bipartisan buy-in. President Reagan and Tip O'Neill, who couldn't have been farther apart on the issues in 1983, got together and said Social Security is about to go bankrupt and we have to solve this, and no one party can do it alone. So once they made the tough choices to protect Social Security, because both party leaders were selling that to the public, America bought into that. Now we don't have that on health care. It's just going to continue to be a divisive issue.